rising from the deep. Here we come. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Patreon episode of A Life Lived Trans with your host, Marty P. That's me, and Lenny Z. That's he. We're so excited to bring you weekly doses of wisdom, or whatever you want to call it, or testimony from two old trannies, still says three there, who have seen it all before. If you are listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any of those newfangled podcast platforms that all you kiddies have, you'll only hear the first 10 minutes of this episode, and then we get into the real dish. So to hear the full thing, go over to patreon.com/alifelivedtrans. Links will be in the description below. Oh, and if you want to be a doll, like a dolls to the grand dolls and grandfather dolls, be sure to give us, what does that mean? 5 asterisks. Oh yeah, 5 stars. Oh my God. Sorry, I'm getting old. And I only have so much bandwidth. Okay, and
dementia's kicking in.
Thank you, producer Carly. Little shithead. Okay, and leave us a review wherever you are listening to your podcast. So leave those reviews, comment, get us out, share. Tell all your friends that we do exist and we have a podcast because they're trying to suppress us. You know that, right, Lenny?
They're trying to suppress us on Patreon?
Everywhere.
Oh, yes.
Everywhere. It's, unless I'm dancing around like some crazy old granny in my kitchen, and then I can slap on some captions. It's like, that's the only way they go, oh my God, that's a trans woman? You're kidding.
Yeah, right.
I thought it was Dolly Parton.
I love the comment of somebody said, oh, lucky is the one who gets to marry you, not knowing that you've been married.
3 times, yeah. Read the profile, darling. Read the profile. It's married. I know, it's just so funny.
So the videos where you dance get more interaction than the ones where you're talking about serious content.
Yeah, every once in a while, it's like I did a call to action on this 3-minute video that's going viral that I did 2 days ago, and I was talking about respectability, which will go into. Oh yeah, we should tell what this episode's about.
Yes, please.
We keep forgetting to do that. We're learning here. It's we're calling it Pride and Prejudice, which is a fancy word of meaning of pride, because we're in Pride Month. It's June here as we're taping this, and just. And all of the transphobia in the community, with all the crap that's going on with the LGBT without the T and all that crap that's been rising its head of late, and it's not a new thing. So we're going to talk about that.
Yes,
it's not a new thing. It's not a new thing. So we're going to tell you tales that will make your toes curl. It's like of what it really was like back then,
and your hair curl too. That's what happened to me.
My hair
all the horror stories. Your hair is quite done. Straight today.
Yeah, it's straight. I got it done yesterday. I got like a French sort of Frankenbang. And if you're on the Patreon platform, you can actually buy our video version of this. And we might be throwing all this stuff on YouTube in a few months too. We're kind of deciding that as well. But yes, thank you for supporting us and seeing what we're looking like. You can see my unicorn in the background. You can see how beautiful Lenny looks at 64.
Can I do this on video? Marty just loves to rag me about that because I'm a year older. Okay, fine.
Yeah, like 9 months or something like that.
9 months, whatever.
So
but how was your week, darling?
My week was any week that I don't have a migraine is a great week. Yeah, it's like it was like, yeah. Well, actually, I did have one on the Monday. But it wasn't too bad. And then Tuesday, I raised a trans flag at City Hall, or near the nearest city to where I live. I live in the town of Qualicum, but the nearest city, it's Central Island on Vancouver Island. It's Nanaimo, and I raised the trans flag there. It's the second year that they've had the trans flag, and there was a big. It was Nanaimo's Pride Week. So it was the big the flag raising ceremony, and the mayor made the declaration at the beginning, and they asked me to do that. So I raised it with 2 other trans kids, young kids, and it was like I was just holding back the tears. It was so beautiful because God, I remember like I remember when that just wasn't even safe to walk around, even as a punk girl, like with my with my cisgender girlfriends in that city, like
I'm sorry.
in
Can
the
you
80s.
explain what Nanaimo is?
Oh, Nanaimo is the city. It's a big port city on Vancouver Island,
Oh,
and it's
cool.
directly across is Vancouver. So the main ferries, two of the main ferries from Vancouver go to Nanaimo, British Columbia, to dump everybody off on the island, right, with their cars. Like these ferries have like 500, 600 car capacities, right?
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy in the summer, and so it's one of the major cities in on Vancouver Island. So they asked me
Lovely.
to do that. So that was lovely,
And this
and
is
I
only
haven't
the
been to a Pride event since Y2K.
wow. And do you want to tell our listeners why you haven't been?
Yeah, we're gonna get into that, but it's like after the 10-minute mark, it's like we'll really get into it. But the last time I went to a Pride event in Vancouver, it was like Y2K, the year 2000, when everybody thought the world was going to end, and it didn't. and remember how crazy
Yeah.
it was?
Yeah.
Everybody thought when these newfangled computers that were taking over our lives, you know what I mean? Like once it turned to 2000, everything was going to shut down and the stock market's going to drop, and it was so crazy that we thought like that. So it actually very telling.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was I was going to Pride actually the year before. I walked in Pride, and I remember it was very controversial because I was dressed in a toga.
Ooh.
And topless though, and actually got a picture on Instagram that I post that, and I asked my girlfriend, she was a cisgender, well, she's like a cisgender woman, and I said, "Do you have your lipstick on you?" And said, "Yeah," and I said, "Write TS on my stomach."
Ooh, what
So
a great idea.
she put a big TS on my stomach. So that was kind of like my last hurrah, but it was really corporate then. By then it was getting really, really corporate. It was getting into the real zeitgeist of corporate. Everybody's supporting the Pride events. So it was really, really starting to get super trendy. 2000, it was starting to get lit to that in the big cities, well, that was 1999, the last time I went. And actually, it was 1999 was the last time, because I was walking with a trans man in the parade. And you'll love this. The night before, I went to a Pride event, and I met him with a bunch of my friends, a bunch of my gay friends. And I wasn't hanging around with gay people much. I had old friends from the past, but my life was pretty much in the mainstream, just working and keeping my head down type of thing. Mm-hmm. But this lovely man, his name will remain anonymous because he does live stealth with his husband. Mm-hmm. But I met him at this function the day before the parade, and he was all in his leathers, like he was with some of the leather contingent from Seattle, right? And he was Mr. Leather of that year. And afterwards, it's like I went home, and one of my gay aunties, this old drag queen, she calls me and she goes, Did you notice something interesting about him?" And I'm going like, "What?" And it's like he's going, "That used to be a girl."
Ooh.
Like that's how like so fucked up, so grandpa head, right? And I'm going, oh, he's trans. I said, "Oh, wow." I said, and I thought, oh my God, nobody has ever not made it past my radar, right? I can usually pick it up, no matter how
Yeah, but
good
you had
are.
never really met a trans man before.
I never had really met them like full on like that, and so we became friends. And the next day, we walked the parade together. It was really sweet. I've actually got pictures of him with me, and we're walking down. And yeah, he was Mr. Leather. It was great. And you know what? He was a lot of people. He was even stealth in the leather community down there. It was like, and then it started to come out. Yeah.
Well, here's something a little bit interesting. Some of my trans male friends, trans masculine friends here in New York are into the leather community. And I don't know that trans women are that much into the leather community because it's such a macho thing. And I'm sure there are some trans women that are into leather, but trans women seem, to be into other things. But it's very interesting to see, gay trans men be into the leather thing and, sex positive. I don't want to kink shame anybody.
Yeah.
Whatever you're into, that's great. But 2 years ago, I was at Pride with Dan on TikTok, the Shoe Fits, who has a trans child. And,
yeah.
And he and I worked to make New York a sanctuary state for transgender people. So that was really incredible. I think RuPaul was there. I hope I'm not messing that up. And the governor of New York made New York a sanctuary state for transgender people.
Right.
And then this year, the guy who introduced me to my first surgeon in 1988, 87, he and his wife are coming, because he's a trans elder like us. He and his wife are coming up to Pride this year with my wife, and we're going to go to Pride. So that's going to be fun.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's so great. Yeah, it was so rare to meet a trans man back then. It was, it made me start to just scratch my head and just go like, where the hell has everybody been? But I think the whole history of trans men and stuff is a tale that needs to be told, so much. Like it's not, I don't know. Why do you think that is? Why do you think it's been so...
Well, and that's what's interesting. I was kind of looking up, what can we expect as people find out more about the history of gender variance among the human species, and much in the same way that left-handed people were literally demonized. They were thought to be satanic, and people with intellectual disabilities were also put away and hidden away. It was just not talked about. But we know now that historically, going as far back as the Sumerians, like 4000 BC, there were trans gods and goddesses being talked about, people who were non-binary. And I think as science comes up with more evidence, and we shouldn't need evidence, just let people be whoever the fuck they want to be, as long as they're not hurting anybody, right? But I think as science, and we know that it probably happens in vitro, and that there, everybody starts off as female zygote, I guess, and then, as the hormone changes take place, you grow testes and a penis. Whatever.
Yeah, they either drops down or goes up and stuff. Yeah.
Right. So it's just such a tremendous amount of misinformation. I was wondering, at what point will we become the left-handers and the autistic people from hundreds of years ago, where they thought there was something wrong with us, and now we're like, oh, well, now we have all this science and literature and history and proof of successful, happy, well-adjusted trans people who just live in society like everybody else. Some people like to dress flamboyantly and maybe cross-dress or dress more effeminate. And some women like to wear pants. Oh my God, I think, didn't Katharine Hepburn get shit about going on a studio set wearing pants? And she said, I'm sorry, I'll just wear pants. And, Marlena Dietrich, they were all demonized for sort of appropriating male culture, even though we know going far back that men used to wear wigs, men used to wear makeup, men used to wear high heels. Baby boys were dressed in dresses in the 1800s.
Yeah, it's like the high heels started with men. Mm-hmm. It was like high heels started with like men wearing those, like in, back in Europe, like in, Versailles and all that stuff, like made it very popular. Yeah,
so
I believe
hopefully
so.
The generational change in attitude will come where people are like, trans, no big deal.
But why do you think there's been so much, history recorded and stuff about trans women and trans men? It's just so. Do you think it's because it's kind of been, swept under the carpet with like being a tomboy and all that shit?
Kind of that. I mean, I did a reel on TikTok not too long ago about a transgender man in the early 1900s. Who fought in the Mexican Civil War. I can't remember his
Oh
name right
yeah,
now.
I heard about that.
Emilio Robles Avila. And in, he was born in 1989. I'm sorry, 1889,
89.
and lived until age 95. So almost, we were probably still alive when he died, and got
Wow.
married to a woman and fought and was revered
Yeah,
by
yeah.
his compadres, for fighting valiantly and just presented as a man. And there are, Billy Tipton was a jazz musician, and there are so many different stories that we are just now unearthing. So much in the same way that Black history has been sort of, and Indigenous history has been sort of suppressed.
Yeah. And I think it's also, it's the good old fucking, patriarchy thinking like, it's like if a woman chooses to, kind of do that, they can say, oh, she's just a tomboy, or that, they accept it more, like just thinking that but if a male starts doing effeminate, qualities, it just seems like it's so sacrilegious, you know what I mean, in the patriarchy's eyes, you know what I mean, like it's that it's about controlling the feminine, right?
So Marty, why would you give up your male privilege? I think that's what they're thinking.
Well, yeah, but I think it's yeah, sure, that's part of it. But it's also, I think it's just so baked in that that lunacy of that that men are supposed to be a certain way, and that's it, and be dominant, and that's it. And if you're doing that, it's like you're. It's just I don't know. I just find it like really stupid, because and this carries on to the conversation about pride with me, about the reason why I stopped going, and because I was at Pride at 2000 Y2K, and I decided to go just stealth in the background type of thing. So I was just like just some broad, at Pride, and I was behind, everybody where in Vancouver where the parade's happening, and there's a big crowd, all down the parade path, and I was just walking behind them, just kind of observing everything, right, and listening. I had my ears on, and time after time after time, I would see gay men picking out trans women like it was like Where's Waldo. It's like, oh, there's one. Oh my God, that's a guy. Or they'd say that's a guy. Or they're like women with fucking tits, for Christ's sakes. And it's like, or they'd say, or that used to be, it was just all your top 20 transphobic slurs that you hear from cisgender people on the internet, as a content creator, right? Like I heard that. And I just remember feeling like, oh my God, this is so gross. This is so gross. And also, it really hit home because there was this one trans woman. Her name was Star. If you Google trans woman and Star and Little Sisters was a big bookstore on Davie Street, Little Sisters, and it was very controversial at the time because it used to be raided by police because it would have queer content in it, right? Like they would raid it over and over again. There was bomb threats there and everything from like the religious rights. It was crazy. And there was this woman named Star, this trans woman named Star that was part of that group there, and she transitioned with the gay people there and stuff like that. And she was a concert violinist or celloist or something.
Wow.
She was just amazing. And she was at this parade, and the shit that I heard gay people say about her was just so gross. And it's like, and I really internalized it because it's like I remember for my whole life, like I was like 38 by then, right? I was 38 at Y2K, and I'd been doing this dance since 15, and it just made me so. I was just so sick of of gay men telling me how I should look, that's not feminine enough. Like, it's like I finally was in reality. I'd pushed it down and was in denial about these people that were my so-called friends.
Yeah.
That used to like, just be really transphobic, like the stuff that they would say. It's crazy. And all the clubs that I worked in, they were all run by men. So the cisgender privilege was baked into all those places. And we were looked at as, we were like the court jesters. Like, and most of the lesbians there too, like a lot of the lesbians, a lot of the ones that probably were, trans themselves, but there wasn't enough words for it yet. A lot of them didn't like me at all, and they would call me right out that I wasn't a real woman, all that shit. The TERF situation was loud and proud in the 70s with all that stuff, and they just allowed us to be there. If we could like be the court jesters and do all these shows and make them laugh and everything, at 12 midnight, then you were in type of thing, or if you were pretty like me type of thing. But you still had to put up with all that stuff. So that Y2K experience at Pride and watching Star do that, and not only watching them do that to Star, that woman, she ended up killing herself.
Oh my God.
A month later.
Horrible.
And it's like, and she was actually in, I actually was up for a role playing her in, it was Ann Wheeler is the director, and it was called Better for Chocolate, I think it's called. Something like that. It's Better for Chocolate. Anyways, and there was a role about Star in it, but they changed the name and whatnot, and it was really weird. I couldn't believe it when I was doing it, and I lost the role because I was too real.
Better than chocolate.
Better than chocolate, yeah. And I lost the reel. I came down. I went for a couple of callbacks, and then they decided that I would just be too real for the project. They actually went with a cisgender actor man, and they actually threw in a song in this movie, and it's called "I Am Not a Fucking Drag Queen." And it's all like, they're trying to make a torch song trilogy kind of thing, of it.
Right.
But it's like, but it's so obvious, like he's so clunky. They are so clunky in the heels and stuff. It just looks so weird. And I thought, oh my God, if Star saw this, she would just puke. You know what I mean? She'd just be rolling over in her grave. And when all of it, it's like, so, and this was like, that was like probably 10 years later when I auditioned for that. And so I thought, yeah, that's about right. It's, I was right to just kind of bow out, because I was just so sick of, and even today, like ever since I've been online and got a bit of notoriety, and maybe this is my own resentment that I have to work out, but it's like, the Vancouver scene, the gay scene there, not once has any organization from Vancouver ever asked me to do anything for them. It's like I always felt like the disowned daughter.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I've found the same thing here in New York and in New Orleans.
You?
A lot, yeah, because I've been around a while. I didn't get on TikTok as early as you did, but my content's been out there, and I've been written about in Billboard and Out Magazine, The Advocate. My music has been written about, my advocacy, but none of the organizations here have written. But I'll get over that. I just probably need to toot my own horn a little bit more and reach out to them directly.
Though.
But
it's
this is a great segue into our Pride and Prejudice topic today, because as we were saying when we talked some of this out earlier, that the Pride movement for everybody, gay, non-binary, trans, bisexual, was built on the backs of Black and brown trans women.
Yes.
Who were not even allowed to speak at the Pride efforts that, were going on.
2 years later.
Yeah,
2 years
later.
after Stonewall, yeah. Or 3 years after Stonewall.
And going back to what you're saying about normalizing the cisgender presentation and really whitewashing the gay liberation movement, and where a lot of gay men kind of took it over. So they pushed the lesbians kind of down and out,
and they went
side.
pick me.
They went pick me, and they totally didn't want non-binary, transgender,
nothing.
Women of
Fuck
color who
bricks.
had the fucking, I don't want to use the word balls, because balls are soft and squishy, and pussies can take a pounding.
The chutzpah.
They had the chutzpah. Thank you. They had the chutzpah to stand up and say, we deserve dignity. And we are human beings, and we deserve to be recognized. And hopefully we can include a clip of Sylvia
Sylvia
or Marsha
at the
P
beginning,
talking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I was doing that. There's a Riot Going On, which is a musical I did this week for Pride, produced by David Driver. And David included many, everybody pretty much in the cast was queer. And he included clips of Sylvia and Marsha speaking, and it was really just so poignant and hard to get through the set almost, because it was just,
Yeah.
when you think of the chutzpah they had to get out in the street and march and get on the mic, even
Yeah.
when white gay men were telling them, shh, sit down, you don't represent our movement. You're going to make us look bad. And that's what everybody says, like, oh, LGB without the T. And
Yeah.
that's not possible.
And that's I know when people say, oh, today, like, oh my God, it's like these turfs and what's happening. It's like, it's always been here. That's why we're talking this stuff. It's like they wanted the T out of the LGBT right at the beginning. Like it was like, what's the history about that? It used to be LGB.
Yeah, well,
back then. It was back then. It was LGB.
It used to be GLB, but after lesbians, and this is an interesting side note.
With the AIDS epidemic.
During the AIDS epidemic, they were some of the few people taking care of gay men with AIDS. And so I'm not positive on this. I can look it up.
They put it in the front.
They put it in the front.
Yeah,
right.
I hear that too. But this division has always been there. Like we said, it's like right. It's like when the mess, when the revolution happened and it was messy. It's like, oh great. It's like the black, brown, trans women pushed this forward. But then the respectability politics came in, and it was like, oh no. It's like we want to fit in and everything. We don't want to make too much waves, and so we've always been doing that. And it's like, and I'm no angel. I was a fucking pick me at the beginning because I wanted to survive. I was young. It's like Tiggy and I wouldn't even hang around with other people that would out us because it was too risky, And then Tiggy actually started, her secondary characteristics kicked in, and she was comparing me with her, and she was having more non-binary daytime looks and stuff. And and I would actually dress more mask just so that she would feel comfortable when I'd go out with her, so we'd both look kind of freaky, right? And but yeah, it's like it's that didn't leave me until really until I don't know, the 2000s. So I was like in my 40s when I finally had to look at that, And I'll just mention this. It's like I always tell this story. Like I was going to work on the bus, and there was a trans girl that was a brick that was being harassed in the back of the bus. And I turned around, I didn't know that, and then I saw what was happening, and I felt myself slink down into my seat because I just wanted to get to work.
See,
and
that's
it was like
such a powerful acknowledgement.
Yes.
And thank you for your candor.
And I left, and I felt horrible all day. And at the end, luckily I'm in the program. So I went to a meeting that night, and I talked to a gay friend, and he says, well, I know what you can do. And he dragged me to this Vancouver East Pride was happening. And he said to me, I said I wasn't going to go to the parade. I won't go to the parades. I just won't do them. Mm-hmm. And he says, well, meet me at the event with all the booths and stuff. He says, there's some people I want you to meet. And there was a booth, and it was called High Risk. And they were these two women that were college graduate women that were starting a nonprofit in the Skid Row for trans women working. It was called High Risk. And so I came up to them, and I asked them if I could be of service. And I started doing some volunteer work at their organization. And so I could climatize myself with that and work through those issues.
Yeah. And to this day, what's so tragic is trans women of color are most likely to be the victims of violence. I know we just heard about a trans woman that was unalived. I think it was in San Francisco. I have trouble remembering details.
There was like 4 last month.
Yeah, 4. And it's just, the violence is unacceptable. And also when you're working on the streets, it's a lot, easier to get into a bad situation because you don't know who your John is going to be and what their internal
Oh yeah,
issues
and
are.
they just do the panic defense, right? That even
Yes,
happened to me in
yes.
the 80s. I did this client, I was an escort, and when I finished, he said, "Give me back my money." And it
Oh
was like
no.
$500 or something. I said, "Fuck you." And he started hitting me and I ran out of there and called the police, and they were like, "Oh my God, don't we'll go there. Don't worry." It's like, and they went running in there they were going to like say solve it. And then they came back knowing the tea, and then it was like, oh, well, there's nothing we can do about it. You know what I mean? It was just
Yeah.
fucking gross.
So hopefully we can get people to acknowledge the history makers like Sylvia and Marsha P. Johnson, and Sylvia Rivera, Latinx trans woman, and Marsha P. Who, and again, back in that day, 69, we didn't know if, it was transgender, non-binary. Sometimes they just called them transvestites.
Fuck,
But
I hated
it
that
was,
word.
oh God, yes. And then later transsexuals, and then I don't think transgender came into popular usage until the 80s or the early 90s.
90s.
Yeah.
It wasn't really used until the 90s. Yeah.
But what's interesting and what I've learned so much from this show that I've been in is, how integrated the mafia and the police were in the gay bars of New York, and it's probably that way in other big cities too.
Oh, it was
But
Vancouver too.
yeah, they were
Yeah.
paying. Okay, we'll keep you protected and we'll let you have these tea dances and these but you have to pay us under the table. And when the riots happened, that's when everything went forward. And as we see things deteriorating here in the United States with the recent LA riots, and not riots, they were protests that were then escalated by the Gestapo here in the country.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, nothing happened until people got serious about it and put their
Yeah.
bodies and their lives on the line to get the rights that we now have, which are slowly trying to be eroded. But I'm telling you, we're going to come back with a vengeance, and
And
we're going
that's
to.
and that's why Pride has to get back to being protests. It has to become about messaging. Like it has to be. It has to get back to that. Because what was your first Pride? When was it for you?
Wow,
Your
that's a
first
good
Pride parade.
question. We didn't have, I mean, we did have Pride in New Orleans, and because I was very stealth early in my life.
Right.
I was a musician, I was a performer, I opened for all these bands, and I was on the scene, but I wasn't really out, even though the press would make, little side remarks about my identity. But probably my first big Pride was here in New York, and then, later on I went with my
What
first
year?
wife, 1991.
1991. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
My first was in 1978. I was 16 and in Vancouver, and it was an actual protest march.
Wow.
And we took over a street, and it's like we went down. It's like there was beer bottles being thrown at us and everything.
Wow.
It was crazy.
And that's what's interesting is here in New York, as opposed to some, more rural counties in the United States where they're trying to have pride parades, they have to be very careful because there are a lot of haters in those states. I live in a blue state, a blue city, very, and New Orleans is the same in Louisiana. It's this little raucous, village of individualists who party. Southern decadence is a big thing down there. But here in New York, we're a lot safer. But what I really hate to see, and I hope it changes, is the corporatization of Pride, where all these companies all of a sudden are putting rainbows in their logos and saying, "Oh, we support our."
Not anymore.
Not anymore. They're taking it down, and I've started boycotting
Not one
everyone.
person. Not. I have not been reached. Nobody has reached out to me to do anything for Pride, and it's in Trans Visibility Month in March. Like I got 2 or 3 really good gigs, and I thought, oh, Pride, something will happen. Nothing. So
Yeah.
a skincare company that I worked with last year, they were all talking about doing it again. After he got in down there, I haven't heard a thing. It's like they're just like
everybody's
it's like they don't
away,
have to.
pulling away from us. And I did a George Michael tribute, and there's a packed room at the Public Theater here in New York, which is pretty prominent place to perform. And I came out and I said, Happy Pride. I said, we need our allies now more than ever, especially the trans community, of which I am a member. And everybody was, I live in New York, so they're very
Yeah.
supportive and they know me. But it's true. We need our allies more than ever. And even us YT trans people who have the privilege of our melanin deficiency need to stand up for trans people of color and also for trans kids. Even though we're older and we survived, we're here to provide testimony that you can live a long, happy, successful, healthy, enriched life as a transgender individual. And we want to tell parents of trans kids and trans kids to hang in there, and that there's nothing wrong with you. And you're just going to be just fine if we can all just stick together and hold these fascists at bay that are trying to eradicate us and to diminish our identity and the reality of our humanity. Sorry, my speech is over. I'm getting off the soapbox now.
Yes. Evita Perón.
Woo!
No, it's true. No, it's true. Well, I'm
Don't
going to
cry for me, Argentina.
I used to sing "Don't Cry for Me, Calgary, Alberta."
That's a good one.
Yeah. No, but I'm going to be going to Pride in Victoria. Victoria is the
I have to look that up.
Is the capital of British Columbia, named after the Empress of India and
Oh, interesting. Oh,
and
looks
Queen of
beautiful.
England.
Wow.
Anyways, yeah, it's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous, and it's the tranny capital of Canada.
Oh, cool. I did not
Yeah, they
know
have the
that.
they have the biggest.
I get it. Queen Victoria.
They have the biggest at U of Vic, University of Victoria, has the biggest trans archives in North America.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
I'm
And
gonna
like
have to look that up.
so many girls go to U of Vic to study in North America too,
That's
right?
so wonderful. I had
Yeah,
no
so I'm
idea.
gonna go there and
That's
I'm gonna
great piece of information. Everybody who's listening, mark that down. Transgender
Yes.
Archive at the University of Victoria, and you can access it online.
And so if anybody's down there in Victoria,
What date is that,
for
Marty?
Pride? I believe the Pride week is like July 1st to the 7th.
Okay.
The 7th is the parade, and I'm going to go down there. Actually, I'm doing a photo shoot with my trans daughter Bray, the
Oh,
one that
cool.
got married. The one that got married that I
Yeah,
went
she's
down
lovely.
and did a
She's
reading
lovely.
for at her wedding at the actual ceremony. That was crazy in this big cathedral. She got married in this big. She wanted to just go fuck you to the world, and she got married in the biggest cathedral in Victoria. The
Wow.
big pipe organ. It was like the sound of music. When she comes in, and gets married.
Pride
Yeah, it
Week
was-
is July 1st through 6th, so you'll be
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So
anyways,
if everybody wants to meet Marty in person, you'll know where to find her.
So we're going to do a photo shoot for her salon. She's got a LGBTQ plus inclusive salon that's a year old. So there's going to be an event there too that I'm going to go to. But the day before that, we're going to do a photo shoot, a mother-daughter photo shoot for her. So she can use it for promo for her business and stuff, and maybe we'll get slapped on the side of a bus or something. That'd be fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Marty, because we are trans elders.
Yes.
Is there an equivalent?
You're a little older, but that's
I'm going to get you one of these days.
yeah.
But we have a organization here in the United States called SAGE. I forget what it stands for. It's basically advocacy and services for LGBTQ elders.
Oh,
and
nice.
and I was hoping to engage with them for Pride. I'm going to be there for a couple of hours, only because I'm moving like 2 days later, so I can't be there the whole day like I like to be. But one thing I did read about, and this is specifically relevant to anybody who's getting up there in age, is LGBT folks and trans folks, because we don't have kids, there are not, and because some of us are gender nonconforming, there are not as many services for us to access with regards to elder care. Like
Right.
assisted living, or how fun would it be? I'm sorry, if I get to the point where I need to be in a home, I want it to be full of queer people.
Really? Like who? And with staff that know how to dilate me and stuff.
Yes, and that's we'll have performances of trans elders doing their old like drag queen routines and their old like rock and roll songs, and we'll listen to Susie and the Banshees in the rec room. But it's been a good life. I have to say there were some fucking hard times, God damn it, but we made it, and we're here, and we are testimony to
Yep.
resilience.
Yes,
And
we
strength.
are. Yes, we are.
Uh-oh, I think we're getting messaged by the producers.
Are we?
No?
No. We're good. We're good.
No, but I can call you old if you want me to.
I think Marty's already done that enough today.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Come along now, Grandma. You've got 5 minutes
I got
left.
5 minutes left. So pride and prejudice. So be nice out there, kids, for Pride. And if you're a homo or a twink or it's like whatever like that, know where you came from.
Yes, thank you. And let's remember our trans elders who would have been even older than us at this point, and the fact
Wouldn't
that
that
they
be
were,
nice to
Oh,
have
gosh.
all of these like 80-year-olds and stuff that we could talk
Yeah.
to and stuff? It's crazy. But I am Facebook friends with Carolyn Cossey. She's only 8 years older. I told her the other day. I said, thank you so much. I know it was horrible. I know you're only 8 years older than me, but when I was like 10 and read about you, like being exposed, when the press were having a field day with you, I know that was probably a horrible time for you. But for me and for countless other trans kids, I was so happy because the only image that I had was, I'm sorry, I love it. I love her history and stuff, but she was just so, Christine Jorgensen. And I was
Yes.
just like, and I was going,
Yes.
I can't be a poodle dress, like weird woman like that. There's no way I couldn't relate to that, right? So when I saw Carolyn, I was like, oh yeah, I can definitely see myself, as a woman like that, right? And then when I met punk rock cisgender women, I went, oh, I really can see myself being like that. And then, it's just all of these different, not just trans women, but definitely cisgender, entertainers, especially like Patti Smith and Nina Hagen and Marianne Faithfull and stuff like that. These really, really strong women, that made me go, that's what I want to be. Because, so many of the trans girls that I knew at the beginning were just also foo-foo, right?
Right.
And, and I could do foo-foo with my eyes closed.
Well, we certainly have a lot of history to lean on and to support
Got a lot of
us.
stories to tell.
A lot of stories to tell from
A lot
our
of stories to
early
tell.
life. But I hope
Carly's
you have a
rolling her
very
eyes.
happy Pride. I hope that one day we get to celebrate Pride together, Marty. That would be so fun.
I'm
And we
sure
can do
we
a show
will.
together with music and songs and punk rock and show the kids what we're really all about.
Well, yeah, there's that one project I'd love to do with you that,
Let's
what it
keep
is.
talking.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
keep talking. I'll have more time, I swear, when this crazy month ends. I'll take a deep breath, and I
Oh,
just want
yeah,
to tell
you
you
got
I'm on my
so much going
21st
on.
day streak of meditation.
Yay.
I need it right
Oh.
now because there's like so many moving particles.
Yes,
We're gonna do a minute of breathing in the next episode.
absolutely. Just even taking a moment just to exhale the dead air out. All of it. Pull in your tummy, and then relax and let it fill up like a balloon. And then exhale normally. Whatever you feel like is perfect and absolutely good enough. Yeah.
And my intentions lately, because I have so much going on, is self-care, recovery, and gratitude. It's sort of been
And-
my mantra for the last couple of weeks.
That's beautiful. And read the outro.
I'm sorry?
And read the outro.
I'll read the outro.
And
Is
read the
is that Carly? Okay. God, they're so pushy. These kids. We really hope you enjoyed this episode of A Life Lived Trans podcast. Thanks for your that. Let's try that again. We hope you enjoyed this episode of A Life Lived Trans podcast. Thanks for subscribing to our Patreon. And if you want to find us individually, you can find us at Marty Pants
With a Z.
and with a Z, and Detached Retsina, or just Lenny Zenith on other platforms. But
and don't forget to leave the review on the podcast and leave some comments.
5 stars.
If you're on the Patreon, it's free to join Patreon too. Like, anyways, you guys are paid subscribers now that are listening to this. But yeah, leave us a review. Thank you. Have a great Pride, y'all. Love you.
Happy Pride. Love you.
See you next week.
A Life Lived Trans is a Diva Down production, produced by Carmen Laurent and Carly, aka Tranby.
Your hosts are Lenny Zenith and Marty Perinek. Thank you for supporting our Life Lived Trans testimonies.
For full episodes and bonus content, please visit www.patreon.com/alifelivetrans.